So today, this is a video I've been promising for a while, and I think it's finally time to do it. So as you can see right here on this shelf and right here, all of these are samples. And today I wanted to make a video in depth of things that I'm working on and my ideas behind them, samples that are gonna make production, and just everything like that. So, if you guys are into fashion, like garment and stuff like that, this is gonna be a video for you. We're really gonna go through the details and the design language of each and every single one. So let's get it started. The first piece is one of the ones that I'm the most excited about. These are some canvas bomber jackets. I made it in this vintage army green and also this faded kind of like orange. It's a very vintage washed orange. Depending on when this video comes out, these might already be out. Right now I'm dropping my hoodies, but this will be out right after the hoodies. So the idea behind this jacket was to make an asymmetrical jacket, but as we did production, we kept running into a whole bunch of technical issues. So I just decided to draw back the asymmetrical panel and just make it a straight zipper. So you'll see a lot of designs on these jackets are asymmetrical, and that is why, because it was originally supposed to be an asymmetrical zip as well. So one of the most prominent details about this jacket is these two suede panels. As we go through the samples, you'll realize I've been experimenting a lot with suede on canvas. I find the difference between the rugged canvas and the soft suede to be pretty interesting. So that's pretty much what I've been exploring for this season, this capsule, or whatever you want to call it. I also have this cluster of patches. We did direct embroidery and made it pretty small on the chest here, just for it to not be overstated on the garment. And as you can see, I did decide to go with a double zip, so it gives people more styling options. I realized when doing double zip is that you have to make sure that you get a really good and high quality zipper, because double zips are they can get very finicky very fast. So I was like, yeah, but I think we got it pretty smooth, like butter. That's pretty good. Another asymmetrical detail about this jacket is this contrast stitching you see here, kind of like repair stitches. So if you're into vintage garments, you see a lot of them over time have like repair stitching or like repair panels. And this is a design kind of like detail that I got from that. Now, obviously, nothing is repaired here, but it's just a detail that I really liked. And I was like, let's see what it gives. I think it did turn out pretty well. Honestly, I'm satisfied with that. So one of the most cool, I guess, prominent details about this jacket is also the sleeve. A recurring theme in my brand right now is these metal rivets along the sleeves. And as you can see, I also have that contrast stitch, the repair contrast stitch right here on the arm. Just, little details all around. And for the cuff, I did this very heavy duty ribbing. Honestly, it feels so nice, and it's like it had to be heavy because of how heavy the canvas is, just for it to be able to support the material. So I think that did come out pretty well. Same thing for the collar. We use that same heavy duty ribbing. Now on the back, you have a yoke stitch on both of them. And a lot of my jackets and hoodies and stuff on my brand have this yoke stitch, because this came from me just thinking about the back of garments being really plain, and I'm not really huge on graphics per se. So I was like, how can I elevate a garment without necessarily adding graphics? And usually that's through playing with seams and stitches. So that's how that came about. And you guys will also see this woven label here reoccurring on a lot of my garments. This is kind of like my Margiela tab or whatever you call it. You'll see this and you'll immediately know it's sandcastle. So this is how I display my garment size as well. And on the bottom is my outdoors label, which is also a reoccurring motif in the brand. Whatever outdoor pieces I make, at least these past couple seasons, I've been putting this woven label on there. Here, another brand signature is this heavy duty clip that I put on the side. And honestly, it fits pretty well for both colors. It's a brass hook. Okay, so if we go inside of the garment, this is one of my favorite woven labels that I've ever made. The top is a depiction of Timbuktu. As you guys know, I'm from Mali, and I just wanted this to have some form of a vintage woven label because jackets like this I can see in thrift stores like 20, 30 years from now. And I just wanted to have character when somebody else picks it up, or like when you pass it down to your kids or something like that. The jacket needs to have character, so I was like, I need to make a really nice woven label that was just vintage inspired. And obviously, at the top of that, you have my brand's woven label. Inside is a lightweight ripstop fabric that I decided to go with instead of silk, just to make the overall jacket more rugged and insulated. I decided to go with this. I've really been into ripstop recently just because of the grid pattern it naturally has. And obviously, you have the inside pockets. I hate when jackets don't have inside pockets, so I was like, I have to add it, you know? I'm just curious how people will receive it or how people will feel about it because I haven't done anything like this for the brand yet, at least of this caliber. So I'm pretty excited for these to come out. The rollout for this will be next, but let's go on to the next garment. So the next one is this pretty cool striped hoodie. This is actually my iteration of a rugby polo. That's why it is striped. I was like, what would that look like reinterpreted as a hoodie? That is why the collar, well, the hood here is off-white because usually in those polos you would have an off-white color hood. Honestly, this came out super sick. I did make it in 3 colors. I did a red and a black, but out of the bunch, I do think the yellow one is the best. Yeah, this is a pretty cool piece, honestly. It just needs a little more work. It just doesn't feel as cohesive to me, but we'll see. Maybe it'll grow on me. Right now, I'm just watching it from afar. It's in the vault, in the archives. On the back, you have this cluster of labels right under, and you also have this patch right here, which is kind of like a vintage patch. And like I said, on the side of all my stuff for my brand, I do add these hooks, and that is just a brand motif. Right there, you have the size woven label. Yeah, not much to say about this, but it is super sick. I just have to sleep on it a little bit. On to the next. So this right here is one of the most intricate pieces that I've made as of late. It doesn't look as intricate, but this is the hardest I've went on custom trims. So for example, a little detail that I really love about these is the waist button. It's my logo, which is a sand dollar. We custom developed this just for these pants, and that is part of the reasons why I'm saying it's one of the ones I went the hardest on. And then the zipper fly is a YKK zipper, super smooth. As you can see on the waist as well, there's this woven label. You guys will see a lot of stuff for this season. I've been experimenting with the softness of suede on canvas. And so I wanted to make it asymmetrical and have one of the knees be suede and the other one just to be the traditional canvas. I do think it made an interesting dynamic, and I'm curious to see how people receive that. Otherwise, you also have this repair stitching detail on one of the knees. Honestly, I do think it fits pretty well, especially with this wash. The little rivets on the coin pocket and everything as well is also custom branded. And if we go on the back of the pants, you'll see I have this recurring graphic of Timbuktu, like a vintage leather label. The same thing you guys saw on the canvas jackets. I do think it translated pretty well for the leather tab. But otherwise, these are really nice pair of carpenter pants. I'm actually pretty excited about these. I went super hard on the little details because, you know, like I said, I don't want to slap too many graphics on clothes. So I just play around with the garment, the seams, the trims, and stuff like that. And that is how I come up with super nice garments like this. And obviously, you have the brand label right there on every single garment. You guys will see that. And towards the bottom, these are actually stems of my sand dollar logo, and I use them as details just to add some bit of flair to the bottom of the legs. And you will see the custom little rivets on that as well. I don't know when I'll drop these yet, probably in the next 2 months, but yeah, super sick. Let's go on to the next pair. Next, we got some of my favorite things that I developed as of late is these camo waffles. So I got it in like a ghost type of camo and this muddy camo. I need to come up with some cool names for them, but honestly, I really like how these came out. These are one of those pieces that you make and you just know how much you're gonna wear it. And honestly, if they perform pretty well, I will bring these back in multiple colors, maybe like a black and a red, maybe a more like military color as well. So the front is pretty simple. The most intricate detail about this piece, you would be surprised, was this little patch right here. Why was it intricate is because it's so small and I wanted some good details for the patch. My point of reference was the Lacoste patch. I didn't want to do direct embroidery. I wanted a sew-on patch that was like, you know, it just feels way better. Beyond that, on the front, you also have this red vintage inspired label right here. But on the back is where you have most of the graphics. So this one says, "Talk to me about art." When I was designing this piece in particular, like I was thinking about how much of a art enthusiast I am, and every time I open my mouth to talk to somebody, it's usually about art or something like artistic. So I was like, let me just slap it on this. Honestly, you could argue it didn't need this on the back, but this is one of those things that's a product of your environment at the time you were designing it. And I'm not mad at it. I think it turned out pretty nice. So it is an applique, it's not like screen printed. It is appliqued with the same waffle fabric, but just in white and embroidered around to stitch it down. So lately I've been thinking about trying to start developing a brand iconic kind of like logo tee, because every brand has a good logo tee. Like think about Old Navy, Balenciaga, maybe Celine. All of those logo tees are just iconic, even the Gucci one. You just see them around and they're like the base point of entry to the brand. So this is one of the two products that came out of my research for that. So in the front is just a regular collegiate font saying sand. And on the back, you have the sand dollar logo. So this is pretty simple take. Near the hem, you have an inside out stitching and also this custom label. Nothing else, pretty much just a good fitting boxy tee. And this is my second take at a logo tee. Honestly, I'm way more satisfied with this. This is a vintage inspired raglan t-shirt. So near the collar, you have the sand logo in the same collegiate font, just way smaller, and the sleeves are a contrasting color. And then on the back, obviously you have my brand motif, and also you have the sand dollar logo right there in puff print. This one has a lot more details than the other one. Near the hem, you have this cluster of vintage labels. And like we were talking about, I'm really gravitating towards these metal rivets. So I decided to add some smaller, more lightweight ones to the t-shirt. I do think it makes for a pretty good contrast and just adds some character to the garment. And you also have this custom woven label right under them. By the way, these are not like heat pressed. These are nailed in. If you look behind, you can see that it's actually nailed in. So these will last forever on the t-shirt as long as the t-shirt exists. But otherwise, I am pretty satisfied with these. I did decide to make this in navy and in kind of like a nice vintage orange color. I know I keep picking favorites, but this next graphic tee is actually my favorite graphic tee that I've made for the brand. When I was making this, I realized I didn't make a lot of graphic tees. So the whole design language is this childlike design language. As you can see, the sand is multicolor, and you have the same cluster of labels that you saw in the other garments. And then on the back is, I guess, my infamous quote now that says, "Be childlike, not childish." And I had a video that went viral where I was saying this, so I was like, I should just recall that on a graphic tee. And I do think it's pretty sick. I literally wear this all the time. I get compliments on it all the time. So I'm excited for these to drop. I can see these doing really well for the brand. And a really, really cool detail about this tee is the crack we managed to achieve on the print. So these cracks you see here are not actually design embedded. These are cracks that we were able to achieve with the printing process. So it looks very genuine, like a very vintage screen print. But otherwise, it's a nice fitting boxy tee, and I'm excited for these to come out. For the last graphic tee, I have this black t-shirt here. So this is one of those things that I randomly designed and just ended up liking. So at the top chest, you have the sand just written out in very small, and at the bottom you have the cluster of labels, same one that we talked about for the other garments. Now on the back it says all my friends are talented. So I do feel like people really like supporting their friends, and I really do as well. So this is an ode to that. You have the sand dollar right at the bottom in puff print. This came out super sick. I also wanted to make a black t-shirt, so I was like, might as well just make it this one. I can see this one doing pretty well as well, but I'm more excited about the childlike tee, but this is definitely a good contender. I'm happy with how this came out. Okay, so next up we have the tote bags. Now, honestly, I'm super excited for these tote bags. They came out pretty well. A lot of people own the first generation of these, so these will be the second gen for the tote bags. They're a little smaller. My goal with these will be to eventually have three sizes: the small, medium, and large, these being the medium size. We did a lot of development for these. As you can see, the art goods is now a 3D applique leather patches. Each letter is its own patch, and I think like that makes it a super sick and elevated bag. These do come with extra straps, so they have a shoulder strap as well as a crossbody strap, just to give people options to wear them. So on the front it says our goods, on the back it says don't touch this bag. I feel like that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people gravitated towards this bag, is because of the bold message. But other than that, the details are pretty intricate and everything is super sick. There's a lot of Easter eggs on this, but I'm gonna let people kind of like find it out for themselves inside the bag. Eventually, I want to have all the colors for these bags and make it like a brand statement piece. So that's all the samples I'm gonna talk about for now. I do have more stuff. I might make a part 2 video, but yeah, I'm super excited about this year for Sandcastle because I'm just so much more ready. So I have all these things just ready to roll out, and I just have to pull the trigger on them. And I have a lot of books coming. I do a lot of pre-made. I try to avoid pre-order at all costs just for customer experience. But yeah, I feel 2026 is going to be a really good year just for the sake of being prepared, because I am prepared. So yeah, that was the samples. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was a way more like technical type of video for my more design oriented viewers, or people that really like to see me talk about details. So yeah, to the two of you, thank you guys for sitting through and watching this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Hey, yeah.